It's become common in the business world to refer to a really profitable business as a business that is just out there printing money. They're just printing cash. That means they're doing really well. Things are going very nicely. Well, in the case of the federal government, they literally are just printing money. And that's one of the reasons why it's so easy to understand this staggering figure of a return on investment at the rate of 20,000%. You invest heavily in a lobbyist who has access to the cash printing machine in Washington, you're going to get a good return on your investment. But that return is going to be realized at the expense of the American people in a couple of forms. In the form of increased taxes to those of us unlucky enough to have to pay them, in the form of inflating our dollars so that the dollars that we do have are worth a lot less, and also in the form of passing on debts for what Congress can't actually pay for to succeeding generations. My unborn grandchildren, that generation of Americans that has yet to be born. It's immoral, and it isn't something that can be countenanced by the Constitution. Ironically, in order to restore the primacy of the Constitution, we need to amend the Constitution. We need to do that in order to require Congress to balance its budget each year. You see, if it had to do that every year, it'd be less likely that we'd have a 20,000% return on investment for lobbying activities, because they would just be doling out earmarks like they were candy. And yet it's funny. You know, the funny thing is that our incumbent three-term senator from Utah, you know, I think his dad's name was Wallace. He says that earmark spending, this sort of thing that brings about the return on investment of 20,000, earmark spending somehow isn't the problem, it's entitlements. And yet he gave us the largest new entitlement program in an entire generation. And he still hasn't done anything to control the earmarks.
Thank you. This is the other end of the stick of following the money. Let me just make a comment on balanced budget amendment. This is an area there I have a disagreement on. I would not pursue that same route, and I'll tell you why. In many years I've been involved, it's come and gone and been reviewed. A balanced budget amendment is a license to raise taxes, and we have to be very careful of that. Also, if you put some exceptions into a balanced budget amendment, then for an emergency or crisis or war or something, then I think that that's the formula for government finding crises and wars to pursue. So I think we have to be really careful of that. But I do think a solution is here. The earmarks are where it's at. There were 9,000 earmarks in that stimulus bill. Amazing, right? They're patting each other's back. It's a good old boys club, but there's some women in that club too. So what are we going to do? Well, we have corporations, good corporations, all right? Let's take one right here in this state, Energy Solutions. Now, I don't care which way you stand on that issue, foreign waste or nuclear energy. I support nuclear energy. But here we go. We've got one corporation that is funding our incumbent and then turns around and also funds Harry Reid. Now, do you think that's right or wrong? Wrong. Absolutely. So, what are we going to do about that? Well, we've got to have some earmark reform. Those earmarks need to be transparent. Our incumbent senator voted against transparency. He voted against a moratorium on earmarks. And here's what we've got to do. We've got to have them vetted in hearings and committees, just like everything else. They can't be dumped in just in conference and no one's reading them. And then we've got to make sure that they are not benefiting a private corporation and that they meet a federal nexus or are within the enumerated powers of the federal government, which would be basically Article 1, Section 8. Am I done? I want to save my lifeline. Am I done?
This is your last question.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay, but we do have a closing statement, right? I was counting on that one. Good. Oh. Okay, great. All right, so I've just used up all my time, but isn't it fun? All right, but I do agree that we do need to repeal that 16th Amendment. I like Mike Lee's idea as well, that, as I mentioned, it's got to be controlled at the state level, whatever we do. But the concept of that fair tax is a good thing. And 17th, yeah, we've got to make our senators more accountable to the states, and that was a mistake when that amendment was passed. So that would be something that I definitely think we need to reform.
So can you change the way that Washington does business? That's a very, very difficult question, but I look at what we've come through here in the state recently. Last year, the state legislature cut, $1 billion? $1 billion from the spending. Think of that. We've raised state spending very rapidly in the state. Some of it's been growth, but some of it's been more and more government spending. They were able to cut $1 billion. When you're cutting $1 billion out of a budget, do the lobbyists come and try and get money out of you? They don't. What's happened is the federal government has grown so large, so powerful. They tax everything that moves in every way imaginable, that they have lots of money. They have lots of power. And so lobbyists are successful in getting access to that. They are, I think of my earlier thought, plundering for their interest against other people's or the broader general welfare of this country. Special interests go in and fight to get what they want. Mary Landrieu got $300 million. Think about it. The government gave Mary Landrieu, for her vote on the health care bill, $300 million. I mean, it's outrageous. It's ridiculous that it works that way. Limited government, the proper role of government is a much, much smaller government that's focused on a few things that we want it to do and not every single thing that it's doing today. We have an explosive, out-of-control government that is bankrupting the future of this country. I'm running for the United States Senate because I am concerned. We've had a great run in our lifetime. It's been a great country, a lot of prosperity, a lot of opportunity. But the future is very bleak. We are, as parents, the first generation to think that our kids are not going to have it as good as we have it. Think about that. What does that mean? If we don't stand up, this is exciting because people are standing up. If we don't stand up and change course, we are in trouble. Our currency is not going to be worth what it is today. It's going to be more and more difficult to succeed. And we have to get our fiscal house in order first and foremost in this country. That means smaller government, less reward for those lobbying efforts. And that's what I would do if I'm elected as a U.S. Senator. Thank you.
Imagine a 20,000% return to lobbyists for every penny that they spend. I have to ask myself a couple of questions. Why does this happen and how is this happening? Well, because there's no accountability on the federal level with our senators or our House or the president where this money is going. If we cannot account for it, that money can go anywhere and do anything they want it to. They can take our money and give it to anybody at any time with no accountability. We need to start making our elected officials accountable at all levels, period. We can make them accountable in a couple different ways. We, the people, can move the taxation back into the states where it belongs. The federal government should have no right of taxation over the people. The states should tax the people and then divvy the correct amount of money in the proper role of federal government to the federal government to take care of the national security and other means that's constitutionally driven through Article 1, Section 8. We can do this in a couple different ways. We need to have, first of all, a fixed budget system that is put together constitutionally so that we can track every penny. And we can hold our elected representatives accountable for the money that they are given in earmarks or returns to lobbyists for any reason. We can also return the federal senators to the states where they belong, to where they are held accountable to the people. I understand that the federal senators need to spend so much time in Washington, but do they need to make every vote, every earmark, every spending bill, every piece of legislation while they're in Washington? No. We have the technology, we have the means, we are advanced enough to where we can bring our senators back into our states to where the American people in those states can hold their elected officials accountable, including the state senators. Thank you.